Right now, the unemployment rate for college graduates between 22 and 27 years old is 5.6%. Overall, US unemployment is 4.3%. For the first time in modern labor market history, freshly graduated workers are unemployed at a higher rate than the country as a whole, and entry-level job postings have fallen 35% since 2023. Underemployment, graduates working jobs that never required a degree, just hit 42.5%, the highest since the pandemic. Everyone has the same explanation. Artificial intelligence started doing the tasks that used to be somebody's first job. AI will take your job has been the wrong headline for 200 years of automation panics. This time, the data says part of it is already happening. So today, no vibes, no headlines. The actual research on which tasks AI can do, the two historical automation waves that already ran this exact experiment, and the one test that tells you whether your job is next. Here is the mistake almost every AI jobs headline makes. It talks about jobs when it should talk about tasks. A job is a bundle, often dozens, of distinct tasks bolted together under one title. AI does not have to do all of them to change everything about how that job is staffed and paid. In 2023, OpenAI researchers Tyler Alundu and co-authors published the first rigorous version of this math. Roughly 80% of the US workforce could have at least 10% of their daily tasks affected by large language models, and about 19% could see over half their tasks affected. Those are two very different futures hiding inside one headline number. Losing 10% of your tasks to a machine usually means your job gets faster. Losing 50% of them means your job gets renegotiated, or it disappears and gets rebuilt around whoever is left. Which one is happening depends entirely on which tasks, so let's look at what's actually being automated right now. Anthropic's Economic Index, published across 2026, does not survey opinions. It measures real conversations on Claude. Computer programming tasks show 74.5% AI task coverage. Customer service sits at 70.1%, and there is a telling split by who's doing the asking. On the consumer side, Claude.ai, people still use AI collaboratively more than they delegate to it. Augmentation runs about 52% of conversations versus 45% automation. Flip to businesses using the API, and it inverts hard. 77% automation, only 12% augmentation. Individuals mostly use AI as a thinking partner. Companies mostly use it to fully replace a step in a workflow with no human reviewing the output before it moves on. That distinction, partner versus replacement, is the entire ballgame, and it maps almost exactly onto the historical cases we're about to walk through. Every previous automation wave came for physical labor first: farm work, factory assembly, warehouse lifting. This one is inverted. Anthropic's data finds that workers in the most AI-exposed occupations earn 47% more on average, $32.69 an hour versus $22.23, and are nearly 4 times as likely to hold a graduate degree, 17.4% versus 4.5%. That is completely backwards from the robots take blue-collar jobs story everyone grew up with. And the reason is simple. Large language models are language and reasoning machines. They are good at writing, coding, analyzing, and summarizing, which is to say, they are good at exactly the cognitive tasks that used to require a diploma and a desk. Physical work, plumbing, electrical repair, elder care is currently among the hardest work for any AI system to touch. The first wave of this technology is coming for the corner office's easiest tasks before it comes for the job site's hardest ones. Before we panic, run the tape on the last time a technology this disruptive hit the labor market. In 1900, 41% of the American workforce worked in agriculture. Tractors, combines, synthetic fertilizer, and mechanized irrigation did to farm labor what critics fear AI will do to knowledge work. They made human effort largely optional. Today, agriculture employs roughly 1% of American workers, while producing vastly more food than in 1900. That is, by any measure, one of the most complete job categories ever erased by technology. And yet mass permanent unemployment never arrived. The released farm labor did not vanish into joblessness, it moved over decades into factories, offices, and eventually service and knowledge work that did not exist yet in 1900. The economy did not have a fixed number of jobs waiting to run out. It kept generating new tasks that only became worth doing once labor was freed up to do them. That's the optimistic case. Now the case that should worry you more. Between the 1980s and 2010, roughly 400,000 ATMs were installed across the United States, built explicitly to automate a bank teller's core task, handling cash. Bank teller employment did not fall. It grew from about 500,000 to nearly 600,000. Here's the mechanism. ATMs cut the cost of running a branch, so banks opened more branches to compete for customers. Urban branch counts rose roughly 43%. Each branch needed fewer tellers, but there were so many more branches that total teller jobs increased anyway. This is the case every AI optimist cites, and it is a real documented result, not a myth. Automating one task inside a job, cash handling, made the job cheaper to deploy, which increased demand for the humans still doing the tasks the machine couldn't. For 30 years, the ATM proved that partial automation grows jobs. Then, after 2010, something different happened, and it's the part the optimists usually leave out. After 2010, mobile banking arrived, and bank teller employment finally started falling sharply. The difference was not a better machine. It was scope. The ATM automated one task out of a teller's job, dispensing cash. Mobile banking automated the entire transaction end-to-end, deposits, transfers, balance checks, even basic loan applications, with no branch visit and no human required at any step. When a technology takes one task off a job's list, the remaining tasks often become more valuable and get done more, because the job just got cheaper to run. Exactly what happened for 30 years. When a technology takes the entire task list, there is no remaining job left to grow. That is the test, stated plainly. Is AI automating a task inside your job, or is it automating your entire task list end-to-end? Everything about whether a role expands or disappears runs through that one line. Apply that test to today's exposure data. A junior software engineer whose AI tool writes boilerplate code and drafts test cases is in the ATM situation. One task automated, and early evidence shows senior engineers shipping more code per person as a result, which could grow demand for engineers who can direct that output. A customer service role where AI now handles the entire chat, from greeting to resolution, with no escalation to a human, is in the mobile banking situation, the whole task list automated, and those are exactly the roles companies are already not backfilling. The pattern holds across the entry-level postings, crashing 30% since 2023, junior analyst work, first draft writing, initial customer contact, basic research summaries. These are short, self-contained, fully specifiable tasks, precisely the kind a model can execute, start to finish without a human in the loop. That is not a coincidence. It's the whole mechanism, showing up on schedule. Here's the part that should worry new graduates specifically, more than anyone else in the labor market. Junior roles were never purely about the tasks completed. They were half-disguised training programs. A company paid a below-market wage for cheap, fully specifiable labor, junior analysis, first drafts, basic research in exchange for growing that person into next decade's senior hire who could do the ambiguous, judgment-heavy work AI still can't touch. AI can now do the cheap, specifiable half directly, so companies skip hiring the junior human for it. That saves money today. It also quietly breaks the pipeline that used to produce tomorrow's senior employees, because nobody is currently being trained on the tasks that got automated away. It's the single scarcest resource nobody is pricing yet. Judgment earned by doing the boring version of a job first. So what fills the gap, the way factory and office work once absorbed farm labor? Economist David Autor's research on new work found that roughly 60% of today's jobs exist under titles that did not exist in 1940. A majority of all current employment sitting in categories nobody could have named 80 years earlier. Nobody in 1900 could have described app developer or social media manager to a farmhand losing his job to a tractor, because those categories only became viable once cheap computing and cheap networks existed to make them worth doing. The honest, slightly uncomfortable truth about every automation wave, agriculture, ATMs, and almost certainly this one, is that the next wave of jobs is created by the capability the machines provide, not predicted in advance by the people worried about losing their current one. That is real comfort for the labor market as a whole. It is close to no comfort for the specific graduate facing a 35% smaller entry-level market this year. So, the practical test, the one you can run on your own roll tonight. List the tasks your job actually consists of. For each one, ask, could someone hand this task, described in a paragraph, to an AI system and get a usable result back with no human touching it in between? If most of your tasks fail that test, ATM story. Automation should make you more valuable, not less, because your remaining, harder tasks just became the whole point of your job. If most of your tasks pass that test, mobile banking story, the honest move is building expertise in the tasks that don't pass it yet. Judgment calls, novel situations, relationships, physical presence, before the rest of your task list quietly gets absorbed the way bank tellers' cash handling did after 2010. So what happens to your job when AI gets cheap? Not a single thing, uniformly, no matter what the headlines promise either way. History says the total number of jobs is not fixed and has never run out. Agriculture proved that at a scale AI hasn't approached yet. History also says a technology that automates an entire task list, not just a piece of it, ends that specific job, no matter how confidently that job's workers believed they were safe. The graduates facing a 5.6% unemployment rate right now are living the transition period between those two truths, the painful middle where old rungs disappear before new ones are built. To be clear, this is education, not career or financial advice, so weigh your own situation and talk to someone who knows your field. Next time on Money Machines, how Apple keeps printing record profit while genuinely losing the AI race. Subscribe so you don't miss it.